Imagine a place on Earth so cold that metal snaps like glass. A place where the wind never stops, where the horizon is nothing but white, and where the silence feels heavy enough to crush your thoughts. Now imagine standing on that frozen plain, knowing that beneath your feet lies something almost impossible to believe. Hidden under nearly 4 kilometers of ancient ice, there is a lake. Not a small pocket of meltwater. A lake the size of a country, stretching 250 kilometers long, sealed away from the surface for more than 15 million years. Lake Vostok. A world trapped in total darkness, under pressure greater than the deepest trenches of the ocean, untouched by sunlight since the dawn of human evolution. If life exists down there, it has evolved alone, in a place no human eyes have ever seen. For decades, scientists drilled downward through storms, machinery failures, and temperatures colder than any other place on the planet. Some described strange vibrations beneath the ice. Others heard the deep, distant rumble of shifting layers far below, sounds that felt less like geology and more like something waking up. And then came the theories that the water might hide organisms unlike anything known. That entire ecosystems could be preserved there, frozen in time, waiting. Or that the lake might hold something older, stranger, and far more dangerous than anyone is prepared for. Because when a world has been sealed for 15 million years, opening it is not just a scientific milestone. It is a gamble. So the question is simple and terrifying. What has been living in the dark all this time? And what happens when we finally let it out? This is the story of Lake Vostok, the ancient realm beneath Antarctica. A place that has waited longer than humanity itself. A place that might not want to be disturbed. Lake Vostok is not just another frozen landmark on a map. It is one of the strangest places ever discovered on Earth, a hidden world sealed beneath a thickness of ice taller than the Himalayas. Directly below Russia's Vostok research station, at the coldest point on the planet, the ice sheet drops almost 4,000 meters straight down. And at the very bottom of that ancient ice lies a lake so massive it challenges everything we thought we understood about Antarctica. 250 kilometers long, up to 80 kilometers wide. A body of water as large as a small country, yet completely invisible from the surface, trapped in total darkness for at least 15 million years. But here is the part that confuses scientists the most. The lake should be frozen solid. Antarctica's temperatures can drop below minus 80 degrees Celsius. Nothing should be able to stay liquid down there. And yet, Lake Vostok does. The enormous pressure of the ice keeps the water from freezing. Heat slowly rising from deep within the Earth warms it just enough to remain liquid. And radar scans suggest something even stranger. Areas on the lake bed that look warmer than the rest, as if there might be vents or hydrothermal activity similar to the deep sea environments where life thrives around volcanic chimneys. The water itself is unlike anything on the surface. It is rich in oxygen, highly pressurized, cold, dark, and completely isolated. A sealed ecosystem untouched since long before humans walked the Earth. And because no one has ever sent a camera or a submarine into the lake, everything we know comes from indirect clues, radar echoes, seismic readings, and thin layers of accretion ice that formed when lake water froze onto the bottom of the glacier. Tiny hints, small fragments, whispers from a world we still can't see. Lake Vostok is not just a lake. It is a locked chamber, a time capsule, a reminder that our planet still keeps secrets, some larger than anything we could imagine. For years, scientists believed Lake Vostok might be completely sterile, a world too cold, too dark, and too isolated for anything to survive. But then the first clues appeared. From nearly 4,000 meters below the surface, researchers pulled up thin layers of accretion ice, lake water that had frozen onto the bottom of the glacier. And when those samples were melted and examined, the results didn't match anything they expected. Inside the ice were traces of life. Not just a few stray microbes blown in from the surface, but genetic signatures from thousands of organisms. Bacteria adapted to extreme cold, fungi that thrive without sunlight, even heat-loving microbes normally found near volcanic vents, suggesting that something warm, something energetic, might exist at the bottom of the lake. And there was more. Some fragments of DNA didn't match any known species on Earth. Not alien life, but life so unusual, so genetically distant, that it might as well have evolved in its own separate branch of the tree of life. A tree that had been growing in darkness for 15 million years. This discovery changed everything. It meant Lake Vostok wasn't a frozen tomb. It was an ecosystem. A sealed, pressurized, oxygen-rich world with its own rules and its own history. But here is the part that makes scientists uneasy. Everything we know comes from ice that brushed the very edge of the lake. A tiny boundary zone. A whisper of what lies below. We have never sampled the actual water. We have never seen its depths. And we have absolutely no idea what kinds of organisms live in the warm pockets near the lakebed, or how complex they might be. Somewhere under that ancient ice, life has been evolving alone, adapting in ways we can barely imagine. And whatever survived down there, survived for a reason. Reaching Lake Vostok was never just a scientific challenge. It was a battle against the coldest place on Earth, and a battle against time. For decades, teams from Russia, France, and the United States attempted to drill down through the ancient ice. Every meter was a struggle. The machinery froze. Fuel thickened into sludge. Metal snapped under the cold. And storms erased entire camps overnight, as if the continent itself wanted the project to fail. But the real danger wasn't the cold. It was contamination. To keep the drill hole from collapsing, researchers used a mixture of kerosene and freon, chemicals that should never touch a pristine lake sealed away for 15 million years. If even a drop reached the water, it could destroy whatever ecosystem still survived below. Environmental groups protested. Scientists argued. Governments weighed in. Some demanded the drilling stop completely. Others insisted that reaching the lake was too important to abandon. And then there were the unsettling reports. Researchers described deep, resonant vibrations coming from far beneath the ice. Long, low rumbles that seemed to rise up through the glacier. It could have been shifting ice. It could have been pressure changes. But some of the scientists admitted, off record, that it felt different, as if something down there reacted to the drilling. In 1998, the project halted abruptly, just over 100 meters from the lake. A decade later, drilling resumed with new techniques designed to avoid contamination. Finally, in 2012, Russia announced that they had broken through, that the drill had reached the surface of the lake. But the celebration didn't last long. When samples were analyzed, they contained unexpected chemical traces, signals that suggested the water might have been contaminated by the drilling fluid after all. And suddenly, no one could say with certainty what came from the lake and what came from us. To this day, the debate hasn't ended. Did humanity truly touch the untouched world of Lake Vostok? Or did we only pierce the ice and leave the mystery below still sealed, still waiting? The deeper researchers dug into Lake Vostok's mystery, the more the outside world filled the gaps with its own imagination. And soon, the lake stopped being just a scientific curiosity. It became a legend. Some of the stories were harmless speculation. Others, were darker. Many people pointed out that Vostok lies in the same kind of isolated, frozen environment as the setting of The Thing, a place where something ancient could sleep beneath the ice for millions of years. A place where discovery might look a lot like danger. Online forums spread rumors of strange radar signatures under the glacier, long, curved shapes that looked less like geology and more like an eye staring upward. Some swore the images showed a massive organism frozen below. Others claimed it looked like the hull of something artificial, something built. None of it was proven. But the theories continued. There were whispers about the Cold War too, that during the Soviet era, secret teams might have used the region for experiments or search for something hidden beneath the ice. And when Russian researchers halted their drilling multiple times over the years, conspiracy theorists insisted they had found more than they were allowed to share. Then came the story that spread faster than any scientific paper. A rumor that the lake held an ecosystem from the deep past, not just microbes, but complex organisms. Creatures adapted to darkness, pressure, and complete isolation. Creatures we would not recognize. Some said such life could be dangerous if released. Others said we might be the danger, that exposing a sealed, ancient world to modern bacteria could trigger a collapse we can't predict. And in the middle of all this noise, the real mystery grew even larger. Because legends don't appear when answers are clear. They appear when the questions are too big and the silence beneath the ice refuses to break. Lake Vostok became more than a place. It became a question. A reminder that some parts of our planet feel less like Earth and more like the setting of a story we're not finished writing. For all the drilling, all the theories, and all the rumors, one truth remains. We still don't know what Lake Vostok really is. Every discovery has opened a new question. And every answer has exposed something even stranger. Start with the lake bed. Radar scans show ridges, deep troughs, and pockets of unusual warmth, areas that behave nothing like normal Antarctic geology. If hydrothermal vents exist down there, they could support complex life. But no one can confirm it. Not yet. Then there is the water itself. Oxygen levels are far higher than any lake on the surface. Pressure is immense. The chemical balance is unlike anything found in Earth's modern oceans or rivers. It is a recipe for evolution, but evolution in a direction we may not recognize. And what about the organisms hinted at in the ice? Were they surface contaminants, ancient survivors, or representatives of a hidden ecosystem that has been adapting in total darkness for 15 million years? The truth is, we don't know. Because we have never seen the inside of the lake. No camera, no submarine, no human has witnessed what lives in the warm pockets near the bottom, or what shape those life forms might take. But perhaps the strangest question of all isn't about biology. It's about stability. Most subglacial lakes fill and drain over time. They rise. They empty. They shift like slow underground tides. But not Vostok. By all measurements, Lake Vostok has remained almost perfectly stable, unmoving, undisturbed, unchanged for millions of years. A world frozen in time, yet somehow alive. Why? What force has kept this lake sealed, balanced, and untouched for so long? And what happens if we disrupt that balance? Until someone sends a probe into the water, until we see what's been waiting down there, Lake Vostok remains a question without an answer. A silence under the ice. A silence that feels less like emptiness and more like anticipation. For all our drilling, for all our theories, Lake Vostok remains exactly what it has always been, a world beneath a world. A silent chamber sealed by time, holding secrets older than humanity itself. We have touched the edges of its ice. We have heard the distant rumbles from below. We have seen hints of life that should not exist, yet somehow does. But we still have not seen the lake. Not its waters. Not its depths. Not the life that may have endured there in absolute darkness. And maybe that is the part that stays with you long after the science ends. The feeling that some mysteries aren't meant to be solved quickly. Some take patience. Some take courage. And some simply wait. Because if Lake Vostok has survived unchanged for 15 million years, then whatever lives beneath that ice has endured more time, more pressure, and more isolation than anything we have ever known. The question is not just what's down there. The question is, what happens when two worlds that were never meant to meet finally do? And strangely, Lake Vostok is not the only place where Earth hides clues to a forgotten past. On the other side of the planet, just off the coast of California, lies an island wrapped in its own forbidden history. An island where explorers, archaeologists, and even museums encountered something they could not explain. Bones that didn't match known human proportions. Tunnels sealed and removed from official records. A mystery that stretches far beyond geology into the shadows of human origins. Next, we travel to Catalina Island and the story of the giants.